There's a secret trick Wall Street is hiding from you, and it's the move that could make retiring rich with Bitcoin possible, even if you're starting from scratch. I'm talking about a real, proven strategy that lets regular people like you and me capture all the upside of Bitcoin without having to give a single penny of profit back to Uncle Sam. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's happening right now, and Wall Street knows it. Just listen to this.
This is the greatest show on Wall Street because the time has come where they may not believe in Bitcoin, but they have no choice but not to bet on Bitcoin at this moment in time.
Even the big money is finally admitting that they can't fight Bitcoin anymore. But here's the thing, the old way of building wealth, it's dead, buried.
You can't buy GE stock and two other stocks and hold them for 40 or 50 years, get the dividends and retire comfortably. Like that game is over. 100%, that game is over.
If you want to retire rich, you have to play by new rules. Rules built for a world of scarcity.
This is a world of scarcity versus what we've all lived as kids of abundance. And for once, Bitcoin's going to paradigm shift. It's going to shift the mentality of people to understand scarcity.
And when these moves hit, they don't give warnings.
Ask anybody from the Soviet Union or from Greece just 10 years ago, or the Weimar Republic in the 1920s. The supply shock doesn't happen until supply shock happens. And then everybody wakes up and says, holy cow, we don't have enough to go around. And then watch what happens.
That's why right now, there's a legal step-by-step move, one I've used in my own family, that can let you front run Wall Street, multiply your retirement, and keep every bit of upside for yourself. Today, to break it all down, I've got Chris Kline, co-founder of BitcoinIRA, the nation's largest crypto retirement platform, and the guy who's helped thousands of Americans unlock this strategy since 2015. So if you're ready to make your money work harder than Wall Street ever dreamed, stick around. You're about to learn the secret Bitcoin trick Wall Street never wanted you guys to know. All right, let's get into it. All right, Chris, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here. I brought you in because what you're doing is something that is personally close to me. As the audience, if they're regular subscribers, knows, in 2015, I convinced my mother to take a retirement account, which is in Fidelity at the time, and roll that into Bitcoin. And over the weekend, Bitcoin hit $120,000. And I sent my mom a message. I said, Mom, she always knows what the price of Bitcoin is, but I said, hey, Bitcoin hit $120,000. How does it feel? And she just wrote me back. She's like, it feels great to be rich. Thanks to you, and that was a pretty, it was a pretty big deal. I mean, I tried to get both my parents into Bitcoin heavily. I remember there was a time, I forget the guy's name at the moment. He was a Bitcoin core developer, and he wrote a blog post. And when Bitcoin was at I think around, I don't know if it was 1,000 or 500. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was quite a bit. And then he wrote a blog post. Mike Hearn, I think was his name, if I remember correctly. And he wrote a blog post. It was one of these Bitcoin obituaries saying that I'm a Bitcoin core developer, and basically this project is dead. It's failed. Here's the reasons why. Big post, right? And people took him seriously because he was a Bitcoin core developer. That dropped the price all the way down to 180. And I literally drove to my parents' house, each individually, and said, you guys have to get Bitcoin now. And that was 2013, 14, I think, maybe early 15. But they didn't. And my mom tried. Right? I asked her, she said, I tried, honey. I went on Coinbase. I tried to buy something, but it didn't work. And then time went by, it had a V-shaped recovery and missed that opportunity. Eventually, though, after a while, because I've been telling them about it since 2012 or 13, eventually she did. Right? And that was something that completely has changed her life today dramatically, dramatically. And it feels good to have done that. But it wasn't easy, right? And so when you came and told me, hey, Kyle, what we're doing is helping folks with their retirement with Bitcoin, and we're making this whole process very simple. that caught my attention is something that I think a lot of people are interested in, because we're moving into a time right now where 50 million Americans own Bitcoin. JD Vance says that'll be 100 million before soon. And we're going through this parabolic adoption curve right now. However, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are fairly foreign to a lot of people. And that whole process of how do I roll my Roth IRA, how do I roll my 401k, whatever, into Bitcoin if they choose to do so, that can be a really hard time. So let's start off by you telling us a little bit about, what is this? What do you talk about? What the Bitcoin retirement era is what we're in, or is that what you say?
Yeah, it's an era. It's definitely an era. And also, that's an awesome story about your parents, Kyle. Like, kudos to you for keep hammering home. It's funny. I remember the times back then. I've been in since 2015. And I remember where a simple tweet from a core developer or like something as small as what you saw would tank something. And then it has a V-shaped recovery. Like, we've seen that time and time again over the last decade, right? And I think it's just awesome and kudos to your mom. Like, one of the things I love the most about what I do for a living is life changing. I've had nurses that had a 403B or a 457A, a fireman, and they weren't sure if they could retire. Like, that was their concern: was, am I ready to retire? Am I going to have time to retire? Is my money going to outlast me? And to watch some of these success stories, like your mom said, I'm so happy to be rich. Like, I've had so many of those moments with early adopters and even recent adopters of just the things that Bitcoin can do for Americans is really powerful. So let's take a step back in time to 2015 together. It came across my desk from my partners and co-founders of, is it possible to put Bitcoin in a retirement account? And we had been doing work in self-directed IRAs with LLCs, precious metals, land, even private equity. And I said, well, let me figure it out. I didn't even know what Bitcoin was back then. So you were way ahead of me, Kyle. And so I went down that rabbit hole, the orange pill, as we call it. And we figured out how to put those things together. And it really helped us define our mission to help more Americans retire, because we are in a retirement crisis in this country. If you look, Northwest Mutual did this really interesting piece back in 2018. So pre-COVID, they interviewed a bunch of Americans and said, how much money do you think you're going to need to retire comfortably? And the number was $500,000 back in 2018, which isn't very long ago. And then you fast forward to today, and the number, they just recently did the same survey to the same people, and it jumped to $1.5 million, Kyle, yeah. Which that's paper printing, that's inflation, that's rising costs, that's all those things. And our parents are worried about, am I going to make it through these moments in time?
You know what?
And so, yeah.
Sorry, I want to drive that point home a little bit further, because I just did some research on this. So 50 years ago, the number to retire was in today's equivalent dollars of $200,000, not accounting for inflation, right? Yep. So, and then that was 50 years ago. 20 years ago, it was $800,000 in today's money, and today it's 1.5 million. So things are stacking up against people, not just keeping up with inflation, but also just costs all around. And I'm not exactly sure how that differentiates, but it's just it's a huge amount that people need to account for, and most people can't retire today.
That's true. It's a retirement crisis, and so that's our mission, is to try to help more Americans retire. And the only way you can do that, this isn't our grandfather's economy. You can't buy GE stock and two other stocks and hold them for 40 or 50 years, get the dividends, and retire comfortably. Like that game is over. 100%. That game is over. So you have to. The modern portfolio theory includes stocks, bonds, mutual funds, but also alternatives, which include things like precious metals, real estate, land, and in my opinion, most importantly, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular, to get yourself to the next evolution of retirement.
So the story I told about my mom, that was 100. Today it's 120x from her entry point from 2015 till 10 years later, right? And but in my videos, I often say, well, actually, let me just get your perspective first. Do folks who enter a retirement opportunity with Bitcoin today still have the same kind of potential upside that my mom had 10 years ago?
Yes. I think that what we're seeing happening now, 10 years ago, this was a contrarian bet. You and I, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we were betting against the world. What's happening, and you can see it over the last few months and even a year, 18 months, is this has almost become a consensus trade. This is Pomp said it this morning on Squawk Box. This is the greatest show on Wall Street because the time has come where they may not believe in Bitcoin, but they have no choice but not to bet on Bitcoin at this moment in time. And so, yeah, I think that on my call earlier this year, I said that I think Bitcoin's going to get 180K this year, which was right around when it was around 75,000 when it dipped early April. And I might be wrong. I might be right. Last year, I said in July that we'd be at 100K by Christmas Day. And I was off by 2 weeks because we hit 100K just 2 weeks before that. And I'm not some like psychic. I read markets. I look at things, and I know that in crypto there's a separate beast that happens, and it's called scarcity. So we look at these ETF numbers that have been coming out. BlackRock hit $80 billion in a matter of less than 375 days, which is a massive difference between any other major ETF over the last 10 years. If that continues, along with retail mania, along with other treasuries, race to reserve from sovereign nations, you're talking about a perfect storm of understanding scarcity. 21 million Bitcoin ever. In fact, the last Bitcoins that will be mined, you and I will be gone. We'll be dead by the time the last Bitcoins get mined. I think people don't realize that it's not all the supply is not here and the supply is scarce. And so now we're sitting in this situation where we could see some massive runs of price discovery. So we get to 180, we're going to jump to 200. And you know, Michael Saylor, Charlie Lee, Scaramucci, these guys are no dummies. They have been looking at this for a while, and they bet big on it, and they bet right on it. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm hodling personally. I may not be around for it, but maybe I am. But I know my daughter's going to hodl my Bitcoin from my Roth IRA up to $1 million is what I told her. I said, $1 million Bitcoin, you can start selling. You can start DCAing out, but you're not allowed to sell it all at once. You got to start dollar cost averaging out. And these things were when we started this 10 years, 15 years ago. Everybody thought we were crazy. Store value? No way. It's too volatile. Oh, this is the future of monetary system. No, the dollar is dominant. And look where we're at today. The game has changed, and a lot is moving forward in the right direction. Wouldn't you agree, Kyle?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is the first year that we saw real big institutional adoption, and basically it was needed to drive the price to where it is today, and then what we're speculating, because these kind of numbers that are coming in on a daily basis from corporate treasuries, from ETFs, from governments, I mean, that takes a lot of human beings, you know, to like a lot of retail investors to try to get these kind of numbers on the board. But it is happening, and every day you've got a massive amount of corporate treasuries buying, you know, some days outpacing ETFs, you know, and that just numbers accelerating like crazy. So, you know, when I asked that question, is the same kind of upside still possible? You know, that's a 10x to get to 1.2 million, but it's a 100x to get to 12 million. Saylor is calling for 13 million. I think in his mind, he still has a higher number than that. But, you know, and how long does that take to get there? I don't know. I've always been too optimistic on the time curve when it comes down to where we're going to get these numbers. But we've also always talked about the 4-year cycle being reminded of us by the halving from Bitcoin. And the halving was always just a reminder of scarcity, but the supply shock never has come to fruition, and until now, right? And so now we've never had a time in Bitcoin's history where there was way more being bought up. Maybe in like the peak of 2017 and 2021, maybe for a few days, maybe in the peak it outpaced. But in reality, we've never had a long-term horizon where there was just so much more being swooped up every day than there was actually being emitted. So we've talked about supply shock for a very long time on the channel. It's funny too, because even just a few weeks ago, I would get comments on almost every time I talk about it in the video. Kyle, there's no supply shock. It doesn't exist. They like, you've been saying that forever, blah, blah, blah. Now no one's commenting that anymore. It's like, yeah.
Well, ask anybody that has lived through, I mean, some of them are around still, but ask anybody that's lived through a scarcity moment in our modern economy. Ask anybody from the Soviet Union or from Greece just 10 years ago, or the Weimar Republic in the 1920s. The supply shock doesn't happen until supply shock happens. And then everybody wakes up and says, holy cow, we don't have enough to go around. And then watch what happens. I remember a great story that a lot of people tell about the Weimar Republic in Germany in 1928, I think, was somebody went in to buy a bunch of groceries with a wheelbarrow full of marks. And then the grocer said he dumped the marks out into the gutter, and he took the wheelbarrow as payment because there weren't enough wheelbarrows around. So he figured that had more value than the piles of German marks that were sitting inside of it. These aren't things that they don't happen. Unfortunately, it's kind of like a frog in boiling water, right? Yeah. If you drop a frog in warm water and you slowly heat it up, they'll burn to death. If you drop them in water that's boiling already, they'll jump out instantly. The way supply shocks work, the way that a lot of economic things work is it actually, we're the frog that's slowly boiling to death instead of the frog that sees it right away. And I think that's what's happening now. And you're right. They stopped talking about supply shock. Wait till they talk about how big supply shock is going to get over the next 18 to 24 months. It's wild. You're right. The amount of money that's being drawn, the demand versus the supply, which is constantly diminishing. I was born in 1985. This is a world of scarcity versus what we've all lived as kids of abundance. Since 1985, we went from every layer, from whether it's technology, monetary supply, availability of these things. It's all been abundance, 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 more. And for once, Bitcoin's going to paradigm shift. It's going to shift the mentality of people to understand scarcity. I always joked that when my daughter goes to a convenience store to maybe get a soda pop in 10 years, she might be buying it for 1 or 2 sats instead of 99 cents or $1. And that's a paradigm shift that will take time, but it's also going to take a little pain to get there.
Yeah. So let's talk about, for folks who are watching who have some sort of retirement account set up right now, but may not be completely fully aware of how those portfolio accounts, non-Bitcoin, this traditional ones, are structured. So what kind of portfolio diversity do these standard 401ks or pension funds or Roth IRAs, how do they allocate funds?
So let's take it in 2 halves. So one half is what you just mentioned: 401ks, pension funds, 403bs, 457s. Those are commonly known as employee-sponsored plans. And they're really designed for accumulation. So you're the employee and you're going to contribute X dollars, and your employer is going to match a percentage of that. And it's all about maximizing accumulation, getting more dollars into a retirement plan. But they have a weakness, and their weakness is the diversification of assets available. What they normally put folks in is what I call generic A, B, C, D funds, where you click a box on your HR program and it says, oh, I want aggressive, moderate, not low risk. But really, it's just a derivative of different treasuries, maybe some mutual funds, and maybe some index funds. So it's nothing that is cutting edge. This is where people are getting left behind. And they're getting left behind for 2 reasons. First, the number of 401k, 403bs, 457s out there versus 10 years ago is drastically lower. Companies aren't building these programs. It's a very high expense for companies that have a mandate in the US for healthcare and other benefits. This is kind of the benefit that gets left behind. And then secondarily, you're getting put into investment classes that aren't keeping up with even inflation. They're not keeping up with any rising costs or anything like that. So that's one half. The other half is retirement plans, IRAs. These were designed in the 1970s because we were in a retirement crisis in America. And Congress and legislation was trying to incentivize more savings from American people. So they gave us the individual retirement plan. There's 4 derivatives of it. There's the traditional, there's the Roth, there's the SEP, and there's the simple. And they all have their different perks. Most people in crypto will talk about the Roth because it has tax-free everything. Like you don't get the benefit on the way in, but you get tax-free everything on the way out. But as a whole, they're a place where you can contribute funds separately from your employer. You're maxed out as far as what you can contribute based upon your age, but you're opening up at a Fidelity, a TD Ameritrade, Edward Jones. And up until a year ago, all you had was stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and maybe some ETFs. recently, some of them, some have not, have embraced the crypto ETFs like Bybit and otherwise. But these guys are constantly conservative in their fiduciary processes. So you're always missing out on the cutting edge. So what we've been trying to do at Bitcoin IRA and before, when we were just in self-directed IRAs, is give people access to cutting edge investments, including Bitcoin. And here's the beautiful part, Kyle. It's the same structure. It's a Roth IRA is a Roth IRA, a TRAD is a TRAD, a SEP is a SEP. There's no difference between the two, except for your accessibility to different asset classes. And at Bitcoin IRA, well, the reason why our name is Bitcoin IRA is when we launched in 2015, that was the only player in town. Bitcoin was the only one. We now have 85 different cryptocurrencies on the platform. And some people are maximalists and they only want Bitcoin. Some folks want to dabble in Ethereum or some of the other altcoins or memes that are out there. You have all that potential ahead of you in these tools, and you get all the same tax settings. So if you're familiar with IRAs, you're going to get tax deferred, tax free, or tax sheltered growth. And if you're betting on Bitcoin, which I know you are, I know I am, I know I have 200,000 clients that are doing the same thing, what better place to invest in something that could go another 10x than in a tax deferred, tax free, tax sheltered setting, right?
So yeah, that makes me think of something else. So what about for folks who are self-employed entrepreneurs? They don't have company set up. Like for me, for example, I don't have any type of retirement account. I just have my own money that I make. Is there any benefit to using a product like yours versus me just buying spot Bitcoin?
Absolutely. So if you're self-employed, and I have one myself because I'm the owner of our company, you can create what's called a SEP, S-E-P, self-employed plan. It's an IRA that's designed for guys like you and I. And here's the really cool part. If you're in a traditional IRA, you can only, if you're under 50, which we both are, you can only do $7,500 a year. If you're over 50, you get the luxury of $8,000 a year in contributions. With a SEP, you can get upwards of $50,000. I think it's now up to $56,000. So you're able to take all those beautiful profits from your hard work as a business owner, contribute it to a SEP IRA for yourself or other employees that are owners or founders. And now you're taking, say you made $100,000 for your small business. You're going to put $30,000 in. Now you just lowered your tax income for this year by $30,000. And you can buy, sell, and trade that money in crypto without any capital gains implications or any other tax implications. And what you're going to do is you're going to distribute it later in life when you're older and you're not making as much money, right? Most small business owners eventually either sell their company or retire, and you wait to distribute until your tax burden is way lower. Instead of paying 35, 37%, you're down in the 10 to 12% tax bracket. And that's when you start taking those things out. So you get that tax deferred and tax advantage strategy that takes place. But yes, SEPs are really popular. Roths, I think, are number one because people really like to have, you put the money aside, you get no tax benefit today, but you get all the tax benefit tomorrow. And I'm a big fan of Roths, but you only can make so much money to qualify for a Roth. And there are rules around that. You should check with your tax advisor. SEPs are the second biggest because this is a gig economy today, right? I mean, there's guys like you and me, and I'm surrounded by people that are influencers, creators, all these types of things. And it's not corporate America. The economy is changing. This is a very big advantage for you. If you're not asking, if you are a 1099 employee or you own your own business and you're not talking to your tax advisor about a SEP plan, I highly recommend you do, and do not wait until April of next year when the tax deadline comes in. Do it now. Your tax guy's not busy right now. He will take your call. You'll have a good conversation, and you can learn a lot about these things. And whatever you decide to do, all of them are available for Bitcoin or cryptocurrency investing.
So if folks have a current retirement plan set up with either their employer or they're self-employed, whatever, let's just say they've got $50,000 in there right now of assets, however that's distributed. When they come to Bitcoin IRA, how does that process work? And if they got 50K in there right now, do they convert whatever they want to, some of it, all of it? How does the process work?
So it's self-directed. So you don't have to do the whole thing. Right? And we've had people that go all in. We have people that do a partial amount, whatever percentage their risk tolerance fits. And anything, whether it's a rollover or a transfer, works. how it really starts is, and I'm really proud of this, Kyle, is we're real crypto, real people. So you can actually call somebody. You can call, and I memorized the phone number because I've done so many of these interviews and I've been in this company for so long. You can call 877-936-7175, and you can talk to a real human being that's been working in our platform for over a decade, most of them, helped thousands of people open their accounts, about what you need, because retirement's not a one-size-fits-all strategy. And so we don't try to put robots or chatbots. You mentioned that your mom struggled with Coinbase, right? Because there's nobody there to help you. We've never gotten rid of the analog at our platform, and which we're really powerful for. So you call there, or you go to BitcoinIRA.com. I think you're sharing a link in the channel here. Make sure you click there. There's some benefits for being Kyle's followers, and make sure that if you call that number, you tell folks. Once you do that, you're opening up an account that fits your account. So do you need a traditional, a Roth, SEP, or a simple? If you have a 401k, 403b, any employee-sponsored plans, odds are it's a traditional rollover. You're rolling over the funds to the traditional. Sometimes you have Roth funds, and it's important to look at your statement. Again, our team can help you with that. But you're going to do one of three things. You're going to contribute, which means I don't have an account. I want to add funds, which is very easy with Plaid Connection. You're going to roll over, which means I have an employee-sponsored plan that I want to roll over to a traditional or a Roth IRA. Or you might already have an IRA at Fidelity or somewhere, and you want to transfer a portion. All three are very seamless. It depends on the custodian, but within a matter of about, I would say, fastest case, 24 hours, slowest case, about a week, your funds will be available for you now to log into our platform on our mobile app or our desktop and choose which assets makes most sense for you. Are you all Bitcoin? Buy your Bitcoin. Are you all Ethereum? Buy the. This is self-directed. Which is, in my opinion, what I love about it the most is I believe Bitcoin is the people's currency. It is the democratization of money, and to allow people just to have that self-directed control is what we're really proud of for our platform. Does that make sense, Kyle?
That makes sense. What else you think is really interesting about either what you do or the age of retirement coming up that maybe I haven't clicked on yet?
I would say we're really proud of last week or 2 weeks ago. We just launched our staking program. Now, I know that with Bitcoin, there's no staking, right? It's proof of work. But we launched Ethereum and Cardano. And by the end of this quarter, we're planning on 15 stakeable assets on our platform. I think this is really cool because we're going through this phase of the legitimization of the asset class, right? The mainstream adoption, the people started this, the institutions are coming in. We see this wave, which is driving these price discovery zones, as well as concerns about the dollar and everything else. But now we're talking about financialization of the asset. So I can hold Ethereum and make yield off that Ethereum, getting paid in more Ethereum or Cardano or Polkadot or Solana. And I think that's a really powerful tool for the future adoption. Plus, it allows, I mean, I staked my entire ETH holdings and my Solana holdings and my Cardano holdings as well when we launched the product, because I'm a long-term hodler. So what else am I going to do with it? Like I'm not day trading it. So it makes sense. And then now I'm making more Ethereum, more Cardano, more Solana, more of these assets in my Roth IRA in a tax-deferred, tax-free setting. That I'm really excited about. And we're cooking up. And I know that we'll probably meet again here in the future. We're cooking up a yield concept for Bitcoin as well. So for those maxi believers and those holders of Bitcoin, like myself, I have a big holding of Bitcoin. I want to make some yield off of that too. In the past, there was these lending programs that we all know what happened with those, FTX, Alameda, et cetera. The next generation of this is coming to fruition, and we're going to stay on the cutting edge of it. We're always launching something new, whether it's a new token, a new feature, whether it's staking, limit orders, instant settlements. Like one of the things we're really proud of is I'll tell you, Kyle, a little story. When we first launched this, we were old school. Like if you watched Wolf of Wall Street, where people were doing phone trades, like where it was people were calling in. That's how we had to do it, because none of the technology existed to do this. It wasn't 24/7. It was Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And we were constantly overbooked. And so after that first run of 17, we sat down and said, we have to build the technology that doesn't even exist to make this better. And we have since. And now you've got 24/7 access. You got human beings available. If you're looking for cryptocurrency in a retirement setting, I'm biased, but there's really no other place to stop.
What about, so for a lot of folks who are thinking about retirement, looking at the retirement accounts, I think it's an overwhelming sensation to think about self-custody. And so curious, how do you guys reassure the security and safety of these very, very personal and valuable retirement accounts that they're now entrusting in your platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first came into the space, and it's still a kind of a chant today, is not my keys, not my crypto, right? That's a big thing that's out there. Well, with retirements, if you are holding keys, you hold what's called the indicia of ownership. And in the past, there's been folks that have tried to offer gold and silver you can hold in your safe. There's been prohibited transactions around real estate that you can buy. The IRS gives us all these advantages of tax savings, but they have a rule set around it. We have tools available that if you're really a diehard, I need to hold my keys and have access, we can do what we have a hold your own keys option. I would tell you that we can open that up. 90% of the people we open up for, they never do anything with it because they realize that it's a give and take of risk. So one side is you have a custodian option that is holding your crypto. And what we've done since the very beginning is we partnered with the best of breed. Mike Belshi from BitGo and I have been friends for 13 years. We built the first multi-signature wallet for IRAs 13 years ago together and set up the parameters of consensus and all the pieces around it. And back then, insurance didn't exist. Right. Since then, we've built out this, what I like to call, the US Pentagon is a 5-sided with 5 different rings. And at the center is where you would find the chiefs of staff, the surgeon general, like the big guys are all at the center. And as you work your way out, that's where lower ranks are at. We treat your nest egg like the center of the Pentagon. We call it the Pentagon of custody. And so not only do you have the BitGo wallets and the consensus-driven solutions around it, now you have a layer of multi-factor authentication, another layer of AI identity verification, another layer of this, where if you could sell your crypto with certain authentication, but if you, Kyle, called me and said, hey, I want to move my 5 Bitcoin out of my IRA, you're going to have to sit down on a call that AI is watching, a human being is watching, answering a series of questions and likeness in order for us to even think about approving that. And that's how you don't get drained from somebody that SIM swaps you or takes your email over. These are really powerful tools. And then once we do that, we're going to do micro testing, whitelisting, TXID verification. Like, we're no rookies at this. We literally built this industry. And one of the biggest policies we had is if we lose anybody's money, it doesn't matter if you have a $5,000 account or a $5 million account. If anything goes wrong, our entire reputation is tarnished. And so we've been hyper focused. We actually dedicate about 25% of our quarterly technology roadmap is dedicated strictly to security. What can we add? What can we do next? Because it is not we figured out security and it's over with. It's a constant evolution. Hackers are finding new ways to make you a threat, to make me a threat, to make ourselves our own threats. And when you look at that in comparison to the hold your own key strategy, you are your biggest threat. So I have a ledger device sitting right here in the drawer. I've actually emptied it out recently. I have a seed that's sitting in a safety deposit box and another seed sitting somewhere else, right? I've done my work as a crypto guy. Most of us, your mom, my dad, my grandma, they're not qualified for that kind of stuff. This is part of the adoption failure that we had. Even if you are qualified for all that extra effort, you're going to miss out on insurance because every wallet's covered up for $250 million worth of insurance. The minute you go outside on your own, you're going to lose that insurance policy. Mm-hmm. And secondarily, you're going to miss what I like to call the beneficiary component. So if something happened, I travel around the country constantly. If something happens to me in an airplane or wherever, I'm going to be in a situation where I don't want my daughter or my wife to have to find that ledger device and know what to do with it. They are simply going to be able to give this death certificate to our company, Bitcoin IRA, and my beneficiaries are set up so that the primary goes to the wife, and if something happens to her, the contingency goes down to my daughter. These are things that we shouldn't have to worry about. Like a traditional IRA, everybody sets this up, whether it's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, is set up this way. So that's why I like the power of the custodial model. And yeah, so that's that's what we built around protecting your guys' nest egg. It's really important to us. Almost, I would say, every executive board member of our company and every co-founder and chairman of the board, we are all holders of Bitcoin, not just with our IRAs. I have my non-IRA assets with Bitcoin IRA as well, because I just don't have to worry about these things. Like it makes it so that it's this, if something goes wrong. Also, I mean, recently the person getting the kids kidnapped in Paris, the guy in New York that was held kidnapped for ransom. You could come here right now. You could cut my fingers off. You could put a gun to my head. I can't give you my Bitcoin, Kyle. It's impossible alone. I need layers of consensus, AI, all that Pentagon of custody. And those are people that are designed to protect you. They're going to see, AI is designed to see, are you under duress? Has your pinky just been cut off? And you don't really want to give somebody your seed phrase or your private key. This is the future. If Bitcoin's really going to get to the next evolution where we're using it day-to-day commerce and we're doing these things, we've got to get past the not my keys, not my crypto. Just like we have to also get past where we thought we were anonymity and privacy and we're taking down Wall Street. Did that work? Now we're like the Trojan horse. We welcomed Wall Street in, and now look what's happening. They are adopting us at exponential rates, and we're benefiting, all of us, off of it. There's an evolution to technology coming to play, just like with Facebook, Meta, all these other tools, whether it's MySpace, everything has an evolution to it. And part of that is the infrastructure around this. And we've always tried to be on the cutting edge and build something that makes sense to everyday Joe or Jill is our policy.
All right, Chris, thanks for coming on. Really, really fascinating. Again, it's a close personal story, but my dad hasn't gone down that path yet. He bought his first Bitcoin over the holidays last year, and I haven't. I'd matched.
Well, he probably just broke even. If it was peak, then, right?
Yeah, he got it 95 or something like that. He bought the dip.
That's not bad. That's not bad. That's not bad. Hey, by the way, Kyle, one last reminder for your audience. We're holding a special for Kyle's audience. If the number again is 877-936-7175. You can also go to the BitcoinIRA.com link that Kyle provides. If you mention that or use that, make sure when you talk to the Real Crypto Real People folks that I mentioned, tell them that you're a part of this, because you can get rewarded up to $1,000 of rewards for opening an account from now until Labor Day. It's part of our Summer of Freedom program. Nice. We're excited about the freedom of money, the freedom of democracy of Bitcoin. And so we're celebrating that with additional savings for listeners to your program.
Awesome, Chris. Thank you so much. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me, buddy.